The Ford folks came in, and they did have a kind of a silly, whip inflation now program. You wore the little buttons and so on. But actually what was going on was a kind of an evolution towards the idea that stronger discipline in monetary policy at the Federal Reserve was the ultimate long-term solution to inflation, which did alleviate a little bit during the Ford years. But another thing to think about is the move towards deregulation. Again, Nixon, who some people oddly call a conservative, had presided over dramatic increases in federal regulation in safety and environment and so on. And a number of factors in the mid-'70s began to turn the tide on that. People who were operating federal agencies began to realize that the rules they were putting out didn't make any sense. The economists that were working for, say, the Federal Trade Commission or even the Environmental Protection Agency were beginning to rethink some of the assumptions that had been that had undergirded the regulatory state. And this began to happen during the Ford administration. And actually during the subsequent Carter administration, some of these trends culminated in deregulation. Deregulation of airlines, deregulation of trucking eventually. So there were some changes in economic policy that began during the Ford administration. Some of the people who would later staff the departments under Reagan and Bush got their start during the Ford administration. And of course, most famously, Dick Cheney was the chief of staff during the Ford administration. And Cheney had been more of a moderate associated with the likes of Gerald Ford. And the experience in the White House in the mid-'70s began to change him, as it did many people. Some might argue, indeed, that Gerald Ford's administration, even though lots of conservatives have properly criticized aspects of what Gerald Ford had tried to do, that it really set the stage for a few years later when Ronald Reagan came on the scene.